Hi, Mama. What's that?
Oh, this? I'm just mailing my friend a postcard.
Cool. Is that the address?
That's right.
What are those numbers at the end?
That is called a PIN code. It makes sure the postman knows exactly where the card needs to go.
How?
Huh. So, what are PIN codes anyway? And is there a logic to them? Or are they just horrifyingly random? Do the great sages of India Post conjure up new PIN codes out of thin air whenever they feel like it? Let's take a closer look. This is India. These are India's 750 plus districts. And these are the districts whose PIN codes begin with the digit 1. Oh, look at that. They're all clustered together. Okay, let's keep going then. The higher your PIN code, the further south you go until you hit the number 6. And then you take a hard turn to the east and get up to 7 and 8. Number 9 is missing, but number 9 is kind of special. Okay, so PIN codes, they seem pretty logical after all. But that's only at the national level, right? So let's zoom into a district and take a closer look. Here's Kutch, India's largest district in Gujarat. And here are its post offices. What a sensible display of PIN codes. An exercise in rational excellence. All starting with 370, similar PIN codes clustering together, a true work of art. Well done, Mr. Sriram Bikaji Velankar. Before this man, sorting mail in India was not a fun job. Now, in major metros, machines help automate mail sorting, thanks to PIN codes. Anyway, so Kutch is laid out logically, so that really means other districts must be equally logical too, right? Oh no. Here's Delhi, and what a mess. PIN codes right next to each other can have dramatically different numbers. In fact, if you stood at India's first PIN code, 110001, you'll be at the New Delhi General Post Office. Walk 4 kilometers to Chandni Chowk, and you can do some amazing shopping, and your PIN code would be a very reasonable 110006. But walk 3.5 kilometers in a different direction to the Union Public Service Commission, and you can't do any shopping, but also your PIN code would have climbed 68 numbers to 110069. Your PIN code is related to your location, but it's not determined solely by your location. What is it then? Well, it turns out a PIN code's job is very specific. It isn't to tell you where something is geographically, it's to tell the post office how to find you. And the post office, in order to do that, they want to know roughly where you are. That's the first 2 digits of your PIN code, the zone and subzone. And then they want to know where to sort all the letters going to that general area. That's what the 3rd digit is for. And then finally, after sorting your mail, which post office should deliver it to you? That's where the last 3 digits of your PIN code come in. Newer post offices simply have higher numbers. So there you go. All logical, problem solved. Except, this is India. Do you really think things could be that simple? There are 900,000 possible PIN codes, but how many do you think India actually uses? 19,300. That's right, just 2% of possible PIN codes are actual PIN codes. Those are the ones shown in yellow on this chart, the ones you need to squint to see. In fact, the PIN code I showed you earlier to explain how PIN codes work, that's not even a real PIN code. So if there are 19,300 PIN codes, does that mean India only has 19,300 post offices? Let's take a look. Oh, that's a lot of dots. In fact, if you count, that's over 150,000 dots. How? Turns out, according to India Post, all post offices are equal, but some are more equal than others. Head offices and sub offices, those are the top tier. They get their own PIN codes. But they can then send your mail out for delivery to what's called a branch post office, especially if you're in rural India. And these 130,000 branch offices, they don't get their own PIN code. They just do their jobs without complaining, hoping to prove through hard work and sheer determination that one day they're worthy of getting upgraded to... no, they're just gonna stay branch offices. In fact, even Hikim Post Office, the highest in the world and one of India's most famous, is simply a branch PO, sharing its PIN code with 10 other offices. PIN codes are way more useful than just helping the postman find you. In the United States, which has a very similar system to India's PIN codes, they estimate over $10 billion is inserted into the economy because some industries really rely on these types of codes to get their jobs done, not to mention their cultural relevance. But now that we don't really write letters to each other anymore, wouldn't it be nice if PIN codes could really lean into these other functions? If they could uniquely identify every area of the entire country for all of time in a way that's logical and can't just change when the government feels like it? In fact, can every building in India get its own PIN code? That's what they do in Singapore. Well, guess what? India's moving in this direction too. Introducing DigiPIN, breaking the country down into a series of grids. So instead of saying cafeteria, IIT Hyderabad, and a whole bunch of landmarks, blah blah blah, you can just say 829-4G7-PMJ8. And if you're able to do that, people will know exactly where you are. A future in which no one ever needs to ask if your PIN code actually makes any sense. So let's end with a little game. I'll give you a PIN code, and you guess which part of India that PIN code is in, yeah? Well, I guess I'll stick to writing postcards.